Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, the Nui channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing season 2 of The Walking Dead. So this season starts off with Rick on the walkie-talkies doing a previously on update to Morgan. It kind of reminded me of the first few episodes of The Vampire Diaries when Stefan and Alina actually narrated what they were writing in their diaries. And I'm not sure why they stopped doing that. So anyways, since the CDC was useless, the group are headed for Fort Bennett now. I've never heard of it, but I do like when the group travels, so I'm not complaining. The van breaks down though, so they go sifting through abandoned cars for parts, weapons, water, and even clothes in Carol's case. And of course they run into trouble when the walkers show up, so they hide under the cars. But Carol's daughter, Sophia, freaks out and she starts running. At first I wanted to groan, but then realistically I run from cockroaches and they can't even kill me, so like a walker, maybe I shouldn't be so quick to judge. Anyways, Rick goes after her in the woods and tells her how to get back to camp. Then he goes after the walkers that were chasing her. I really liked Rick. He's a classic hero and a natural leader for the group. And it kind of reminds me, a few days ago at my grandparents' house, my brother put on one of the new Thor movies and I was so shocked. I hadn't been following all the MCU movies. I think I only watched the first Thor movie. But his lines in this movie sounded like they could have belonged to Spider-Man or something. And I wonder if all the superheroes have to give funny one-liners now. I seem to remember Captain America being very serious, so I'll be very disappointed if they changed him too. But back to the story, Carol's daughter doesn't make it back to camp, so the group goes searching for her. Andrea actually confronts Dale about what happened in the last episode and lets him know that he forced her hand. So she made her choice back there. After her sister died, she wanted to go out her own way and not by the walkers. But if Dale stayed, she'd have his death on her hands. So I think that was a very good point, very well said, and I'm glad the writers included this detail about her character. So she overhears Shane talking to Laurie and finds out that Shane wants to leave the group and go his own way. So she asks if she can join him. And by the way, Shane is actually handsome. I don't know why I didn't notice it sooner. Now I'm wondering if I should try watching the Punisher series to see more of him. This episode ends with Shane, Rick, and his son Carl seeing a deer while they were looking for Sophia. And it looks like my two dads moment when they decide to let Carl kill the deer. And I kept thinking it was strange. He was getting closer and closer to the deer without actually doing anything. And also the way the camera kept cutting to Shane and Rick smiling like proud dads was getting kind of uncomfortable for me. But then Carl gets shot and it's out of nowhere. Episode 2 starts with a flashback of Laurie finding out Rick was shot. And this is starting to feel like the show's swing scene from Naruto, if you know what I mean. We've seen Rick's point of view being shot and then waking up in hospital. We've also seen Shane at the hospital thinking he was dead, and now we have Laurie's point of view. And I still don't like Laurie, but the show is trying really hard to make me change my mind. So then we go back to Carl being shot, and Rick is carrying him very awkwardly while running. The shooter was actually aiming for the deer, but the bullet went straight through to Carl, and now he has shrapnel inside him. So they go to this farm that's out in the woods, and it still looks untouched by the walkers. There's a vet there, and he starts treating Carl. And I think this is the first time Rick truly looks out of control, vulnerable, and weak. Laurie is the strong one, keeping him together. Shane goes to the high school with the shooter, and the shooter's name is Otis. And they get some equipment the doctor needs to operate on Carl. So by the end of the episode, neither of the plots are resolved though. We still haven't found Carol's daughter. I'm starting to feel like the episodes are too short, but this is also motivating me to keep watching more episodes, which was probably intentional. Since something has changed in the pacing, yeah, So season 3 is a turning point. Episode 3 is a turning point for Shane. We start the episode with him shaving in the bathroom, and he's absolutely ripped. He has a Marvel superhero body. So anyways, most of the episode is just cutting back and forth between Carl getting worse and Shane and Otis fighting the walkers so they can get back in time. Even though it's risky, there's just no time left, so Laurie and Rick agree that the doctor should start the operation without the respirator. But just then, Shane shows up, looking traumatized, but he has the equipment, and they are able to save Carl. But Otis didn't make it. And at first I thought it was weird the doctor and Rick were the ones to bring the news to Otis's wife. Shouldn't Shane speak since he was there? But I let it go. It's only as Shane is shaving his head that we get the real flashback. The guys were surrounded and down to their last bullets. Shane attacked Otis so the walkers would be distracted by him and Shane could escape. It reminds me a bit of season 1 when the walkers were distracted by the horse, allowing Rick to escape into the tank. But of course Rick didn't do that intentionally the way Shane did. But I like this move though, with Shane entering his villain arc. We've seen him contemplate shooting Rick and almost assaulting Laurie in season 1, so sacrificing Otis fits with his character a lot. In episode 4, Shane teaches Andrea how to assemble a gun. So I keep on calling her Andrea, but the show says Andrea, so I'll pronounce it that way. So to be honest, if they are going to set up a relationship for Andrea, I would much rather she ends up with Daryl. I think because he was first introduced as Merle's brother, I didn't take him seriously, but even in season 1, he's their best hunter. He didn't hesitate to give them the medication when T-Dog got an infection, and it seems like he really wants to help find Sophia. Plus, he's really cool with the motorcycle and crossbow. Even the way he tells Carol the story about the Trail of Tears and Cherokee Rose shows he's not racist and ignorant like his brother. He just maybe had a bad upbringing. And I think this is the couples episode because even Glenn and the vet's daughter woke up. So the episode ends with Laurie taking a pregnancy test, and that ends up being positive. I still hate that whole storyline, and now I find it extra icky the way neither Shane nor Laurie told Rick what happened. To me, I just feel like it will make it worse when the truth finally comes out. But in episode 5, Laurie still hasn't told either man she's pregnant. Glenn is the only one that knows, and that's only because he was the one that did the supply run with the vet's daughter. And speaking of the vet, he's getting annoyed with the group and he wants his daughter to keep away from them. He tells Rick to look after his people and he'll look after his own people. Also, he's only letting them stay there as long as it takes to find Sophia and for Carl to get better. But it's while searching for Sophia alone on his horse that Daryl finds her doll. But the horse sees a snake and panics, and it throws him off. He starts hallucinating that his brother is there and helps him survive. It's very Hunger Games, Katniss vibes with Daryl for this episode. And when he gets back, Andrea thinks he's a walker and she shoots him. The episode ends with Glenn finding this barn area that's filled with walkers locked up in there. Episode 6, though, is aptly named Secrets. And of course, it's all too much for Glenn to hold in, so he tells Dale, who gets the story out of the vet. Apparently, he's keeping the walkers locked up because he still sees them as human and can't kill them. And Dale also speaks to Laurie about her pregnancy, so he knows everything about her relationship with Shane. And when he sees Shane with Andrea, he waits until Shane is alone to confront him. Dale is the only one suspicious about Otis's death because he was there when Shane almost shot Rick. It's kind of dumb of him to confront Shane about all this alone, and even Shane makes a threat towards him. So back in soap opera land, Laurie decides not to abort the baby, but Rick sees the pills and he gets angry that she made the decision without even speaking to him. So he asks her if she's keeping any other secrets,
And there's such a long pause. I almost thought she's going to say no, but in the end she says Shane. So it's a bit anticlimactic because Rick is so understanding and he reasons that all of this happened because they thought he was dead. So season 2 should be called The Search for Sophia. We are 6 episodes in and they still haven't found her. Every time my mother walks past me and an episode is playing, she asks me if they found the girl yet. Episode 7 though is absolutely insane. Please bear in mind that I'm writing down the review per episode, so I didn't know this was going to happen when I mentioned episode 6. So back to episode 7. Glenn tells the others about the walkers being kept in the barn. Shane wants to kill them immediately, but Rick wants to convince the vet first because now that Laurie is pregnant, it's even more important for them to stay where it's safe. So Dale tries to hide the guns, but Shane finds him and then he takes it and arms everyone. And then he opens the barn doors. And as the walkers come out, they shoot them one after the other. I think they use fans of the show as extras to play the walkers. So if you were cast, which character would you want to kill you? And I honestly would want Daryl to do it or Rick. To me, Glenn and T-Dog are way too violent without their guns. And just when you think it's over, there's the sound of one more walker slowly coming out. And it's Sophia. I was so shocked. Honestly, I thought they'll somehow find her still alive somewhere. And now I need to process. Honestly, it was quite an episode. So in episode 8, they're still recovering as well. The walkers that were their loved ones like Sophia will be buried, but all the others are piled up and burnt. It's interesting the difference in treatment. When a random walker's arm falls off, they throw it on the pile with no care. It might as well be a log or something, yet Sophia and the select few are covered in blankets and given a wake before burial. One of the ladies named Beth faints, but the vet is not there, so he went to the bar to drink because it finally set in for him that there's no hope. Rick and Glenn went after to bring him back, but they end up taking too long, so Laurie goes to ask Daryl to find him, and when he refuses, she tries to go herself but ends up in a car accident. Typical. No further comment. At the bar, the guys meet 2 other guys that want to go to the farm with their group. So Rick explains there's no place and he refuses to tell them where it is. But when they become more insistent, he shoots them. And I think this is another turning point because they are killing other humans in order to protect their resources. Okay, so then we get to episode 9. Shane finds Laurie out in the woods and he lies to her that Rick already returned in order to get her back to the farm. And at the bar, the dead man's friends start shooting at Rick. And they only flee once the walkers arrive. But they've left one of their own people behind and Rick decides to save him, so they take him back to the farm. The place is already overcrowded, but the plan is to give him some supplies, and then once he's better, they're going to send him on his way. And the episode ends with soap opera land drama. Laurie tells Rick that Shane thinks the baby is his and how she's supposed to be with him, also her suspicions about Otis's death. And side note, who knew Otis was going to end up being such a big plot point? Anyways, Rick's face at the end is very un-Rick-like. He's starting to kind of annoy me though with his selective morals and forgiveness. Why bother saving the boy with the broken leg? The explanation that he's just a kid seems kind of flimsy to me. But in episode 10, Rick and Shane go to dump the boy somewhere. But then he admits he knows Maggie and her family, so they realize he's going to be able to lead his group to the farm, and he must be killed. So Shane wants to do it right now, but Rick needs time to think about it, so they fight. Everything gets brought up, including Laurie and Carl. Shane thinks he'd do a better job protecting them and even throws a wrench which could have killed Rick. But this lures out the walkers, and in the end, Rick has to rescue Shane and the boy, whose name is Randall. I feel like that name will forever be associated with recess for me. In other news, Laurie is a bit sexist, and she tells Andrea she should be helping the woman of the house, doing chores, washing clothes, helping with preparing the meals, etc., instead of keeping watch for the walkers, and she even calls it getting a tan. So in an ideal world, the chores would be shared, as would the protection duty, but I guess in their world, the women are meant to keep house while the men hunt and protect. And then you think of characters like Carol, who can't even hold a gun, and it kind of makes sense. But Andrea challenges that though, and I don't blame her. Shane is always complaining about Rick taking their manpower for his missions, and that was happening since season 1. So if she can do the job, let her. Episode 11 is all about whether to kill Randall or let him loose. Everyone is on board to kill him except Dale, and at one point he says something really important about how their world might have changed, but it doesn't mean their morals have to as well. But then he's outvoted, and Rick is about to shoot Randall when Carl shows up. And Rick can't do it with his son egging him on to kill this man. When did Carl turn into such a punk anyways? At one point, he steals Daryl's gun and goes into the woods. He sees a walker and starts throwing stones at it because it was stuck in the mud. But when it gets loose, he doesn't shoot it, he runs. And at the end of the episode, it's the same walker that kills Dale. I would have thought for sure Shane would have been the one to kill Dale, or at least engineer his death. But no, Dale is killed by a walker and a naughty, stupid child's actions. So the plan in episode 12 is for Rick and Daryl to take Randall and dump him somewhere, but our resident loose cannon, aka Shane, takes Randall into the woods and kills him. After that, he lures Rick into the woods planning to shoot him, but Rick was expecting it, and after some soap opera land dialogue between them that we've heard before many times, Rick shoots him. I thought he killed him, but Carl sees it, and afterwards when Shane turns into a walker, Carl is the one to take him down. And I might have missed a step, because when did Shane turn into a walker? But then we finally get to the last episode of season 2. The farm is overrun with walkers and everyone has to escape except Andrea, who gets left behind. And some other people die, but they weren't from our group. One of them was Otis's wife though. So everyone meets on the highway and Rick explains everyone is infected and will become walkers after they die. That's what Dr. Jenner whispered to him at the end of season 1. But he only saw it happen for the first time when he killed Shane, and Shane became a walker. So the group is shocked, and now they are wondering if Rick is the right person to lead the group, since he kept all this a secret. In the end, Rick tells them that if they decide to stay, this is not a democracy anymore. He's the dictator. So this is a very interesting season, and maybe even more entertaining than season 1. I do think it could have been split, with episode 7, Finding Sophia, being season 2, and then Shane's descent into madness or villainy, whatever you want to call it, being season 3. Episode 7 was a real turning point for our group. But also the vet, who went from thinking walkers should be treated like humans to actually killing walkers himself by the end of the season. The only thing I don't like so far is how the group treated Rick. They want him to make the hard decisions and think for them so they don't have blood on their hands. Dale told him that when they wanted to kill Randall but didn't want to be there when he dies. They give more grace to Shane, who was an absolute menace this season. That whole thing with Otis went from cruel and horrific to he did what he had to do to survive and save Carl way too quickly for my liking. But all in all, I loved the actors, the writing, and the directing choices. Some of the scenes were so beautifully shot and cinematic. It's rare for me to notice these things, but you really feel the shots in the show were intentional and purposeful, so I just wanted to bring attention to that. The show feels like a video game in a good way. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.